The massive ship moved closer to the mainland, hovering over the Atlantic with an ominous presence. Its black surface reflected nothing, and glowing energy lines pulsed rhythmically along its hull. Coastal cities felt the impact immediately. The ground trembled, windows shook, and streetlights flickered. People ran into the streets, confused and afraid. Emergency sirens sounded across multiple states. Drivers honked horns as traffic snarled on highways jammed with fleeing families. Dr. Ryan Cole and his team monitored the approach from their laboratory. Ryan adjusted the screens to track the ship's movement. "It is moving faster than any vessel we have seen," he said. "We have only minutes to prepare." Jess Taylor stood beside him, tense and alert. "We must warn everyone and coordinate defenses," she said. Ryan nodded, sending emergency alerts to coastal cities, naval fleets, and military bases. Panic spread quickly, but some followed instructions and evacuated cautiously. Naval ships and fighter jets scrambled to intercept the massive vessel. Missiles fired from destroyers cut through the sky, leaving trails of smoke, but they never reached their target. Jets darted toward the ship, but it remained untouchable. Its energy field seemed to absorb or deflect every attack. Captain Taylor on the research vessel barked orders to her crew. "Keep distance and observe. Do not risk the lives of our people. We cannot fight them directly." Her crew obeyed, moving the ship carefully, staying just out of range. In the laboratory, Ryan calculated the destructive potential of the ship. Energy readings were off the charts, and its movement suggested intelligence and strategy. "Every step we take, they are learning," Ryan said. "We must analyze before engaging. One mistake could destroy thousands of lives." Jess worked with him, guiding teams to monitor the coastline and track every signal. Drones were deployed to observe the massive ship, sending back live images of glowing energy patterns and mechanical structures moving beneath the hull. The first attack came without warning. A beam of energy shot from the massive ship, striking a naval fleet stationed near the coast. Water erupted violently as the ships were engulfed in flames. Sailors screamed and scrambled for life rafts. Drones captured the destruction and sent it back to Ryan and Jess. He looked at the screens, pale but focused. "This is only the beginning," he said. The city alerts turned red and civilians watched in fear as explosions shook the shoreline. Emergency services struggled to respond. Hospitals were overwhelmed with injured sailors and civilians. Roads were clogged with people trying to escape. Helicopters attempted rescue operations, but many were grounded by energy pulses from the massive ship. People hid in basements, parking garages, and reinforced buildings. Ryan coordinated with military teams, directing resources to safe zones and evacuation routes. Every second mattered. Back on the research vessel, Jess directed drones to gather data on the ship's attacks. Each pulse of energy, each movement of the massive vessel was recorded and analyzed. "We cannot fight directly," Jess said. "We must survive and learn. We have to find patterns in their behavior." Her crew worked tirelessly, adjusting drone positions, recording energy signatures, and monitoring coastal activity. The tension was palpable. Each crew member understood the importance of their observations.
The massive ship
Hovered over the ocean, silent but deadly. Its drones patrolled the surrounding waters, scanning and testing human defenses. Ryan observed from the laboratory. "They are intelligent," he said. "They are not attacking randomly. Every strike is calculated." Jess added, "We must keep our distance and avoid losses while learning. Observation is our only weapon right now." As night fell, the first strike had shown the true power of the massive ship. Cities were damaged, naval fleets destroyed, and panic spread among the population. Ryan and Jess prepared for the next attacks. Drones continued to monitor the ship, recording energy pulses, drone movements, and mechanical patterns. Every piece of data was crucial for understanding the enemy and planning the next steps. The humans realized they could not fight conventionally. Their weapons were useless against the massive ship. Only careful observation, intelligence gathering, and survival would allow them to respond. Ryan said quietly, "We have to survive the first strike, and we can find a way to fight back." Jess nodded, looking at the glowing hull of the massive ship. The war had begun, and humanity's first real battle was underway. The next hours would test their courage, strategy. an ability to survive against a force far beyond anything they had faced before. The naval fleet attempted to respond to the first strike, firing missiles and launching drones toward the massive ship. The crew of every ship worked in tense coordination, hoping to make some impact. However, every missile disintegrated before reaching the vessel. Drones were intercepted and disabled instantly. The humans realized their conventional weapons were useless. Captain Jess Taylor directed her research vessel carefully, keeping her crew out of harm while observing the battle. "Every move we make, they watch," she said. "We must not lose more lives in a useless attack." Dr. Ryan Cole analyzed the data streaming from the drones and naval ships. The energy patterns suggested intelligence and strategic calculation. "This ship is not random," he said. "Every strike is planned. We must find weaknesses, or humanity will be destroyed." Jess nodded, relaying instructions to the crew. They shifted drones to observe the movement of smaller vessels emerging from the massive ship. Each drone recorded energy pulses, mechanical structures, and flight patterns, sending information back to Ryan for analysis. The massive ship released smaller drones that flew in precise formations over the ocean. They scanned the naval fleet and coastal regions, avoiding missiles and attacks with ease. The human ships tried to protect civilians and maintain order. Emergency alerts broadcast evacuation instructions, but panic slowed the process. Traffic snarled, and many roads became useless. Ryan coordinated with military teams to guide civilians towards safer inland locations. While monitoring the progress of the massive ship and its drones, reports came from coastal cities that buildings were shaking from the energy pulses and minor structural damage had begun. People ran into the streets confused and afraid. Some ignored orders and fled along dangerous routes. Hospitals prepared for casualties and rescue teams tried to manage chaos. Ryan and Jess worked together to predict the next target. The massive ship seemed to focus on strategic points along the coast. Ryan said, "We must keep analyzing. Understanding their strategy is the only way to survive." On the research vessel, Jess guided drones closer to the massive ship to gather more information. She watched the energy flows, glowing conduits, and movement of the mechanical parts. Every pulse and movement was recorded. Crew members noted patterns, and Ryan studied every detail. "Their intelligence is unlike anything we have faced," Ryan said. "We must be careful. Any mistake could cost thousands of lives." Suddenly, the massive ship fired another energy beam toward a coastal city. Buildings disintegrated instantly. The humans watched in horror as chaos spread through the streets. Emergency services tried to respond, but the destruction was swift and precise. Ryan coordinated with teams on the ground to minimize damage. He instructed drones to map safe evacuation routes and identify areas of immediate danger. Jess kept the research vessel moving, capturing all data and relaying it to Ryan in real time. As the human fleets tried to regroup, the massive ship's smaller vessels moved strategically to cut off naval maneuvers. Ryan noticed that the drones moved in patterns that suggested weak points in their formation. He said, "They have gaps. If we can analyze them carefully, we might find a way to exploit those gaps later." Jess adjusted the drones to observe these patterns, keeping her crew safe while gathering intelligence. The naval commander on the largest destroyer attempted to order a coordinated attack using multiple ships at once. Missiles launched in formation, drones flew ahead to guide them, but the massive ship's energy field absorbed the impact. The commander yelled orders to retreat and reorganize. Many crews feared another strike that could wipe out the entire fleet. Ryan and Jess knew the first human attacks had failed, but every observation brought valuable knowledge. Night fell over the coastline and ocean. The massive ship hovered silently, observing and studying human defenses. Its drones patrolled the water, scanning every vessel and movement. Ryan reviewed the collected data, mapping energy pulses, flight patterns, and drone coordination. Jess instructed the crew to remain alert and ready to move. The humans realized that survival depended not on fighting directly, but on observing, analyzing, and preparing. Ryan spoke quietly to Jess and the crew. "The first strike has shown us how dangerous they are. Our weapons cannot touch them, but knowledge might. We have to survive, learn, and plan for the next move." Jess nodded, her eyes fixed on the massive ship and its smaller vessels. The humans understood that the war had begun in full force. Every second would test their courage, intelligence, an ability to survive against a power far beyond anything they had faced before. The battle continued, and humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. The coastal city shook as the massive ship targeted it with a focused energy beam. Buildings crumbled instantly, sending dust and debris into the air. Streets became chaotic as people ran for safety, screaming and pushing through the crowd. Emergency sirens rang without pause. Ryan Cole monitored the damage from the laboratory, eyes fixed on the screens. "We cannot let this continue unchecked," he said. "We have to protect as many people as we can." Jess Taylor coordinated with local authorities and rescue teams, giving instructions to move civilians to safer areas. The human military tried to respond. Jets flew overhead, missiles fired toward the massive ship. Every weapon failed. Missiles disintegrated before reaching the target, and the ship's smaller drones intercepted anything that came close. Naval ships attempted to fire from the coast, but energy beams from the ship forced them back. Ryan studied every strike and failure. "They are calculating our moves," he said. "Each attack tells them what we can do. Must observe and plan carefully." Civilians ran through the streets, some hiding in basements and parking garages. Hospitals filled quickly with injured people. Emergency teams struggled to organize, but chaos slowed the process. Social media broadcast videos of destruction in real time, spreading fear. Ryan guided the teams remotely, showing them safer evacuation routes and directing drones to monitor key areas. Jess kept the research vessel in position, sending live feeds from drones to track the massive ship and its attacks. The first wave of destruction was over, but the human forces were not ready to give up. Ryan analyzed the movement patterns of the smaller drones and the massive ship. "They are intelligent," he said. "They are not just attacking randomly. Every action has a purpose. If we can learn their patterns, we might survive the next strike." Jess adjusted the drones to monitor energy flows and observe weak points in the drones' formations. Every crew member worked in silence, focused on survival and data collection. Night fell over the city. Fires burned where buildings had collapsed. The coast was littered with debris from destroyed structures and damaged vehicles. Naval ships were grouped in safer waters. Jets returned to bases to refuel and prepare for the next attack. Ryan and Jess compiled all the data from the first strike, mapping energy pulses, drone movements, and destruction patterns. The humans realized that their weapons alone would not be enough. Strategy, observation, and planning were now crucial. As the city tried to recover, a naval commander made a bold decision. He ordered a coordinated attack with multiple ships firing in formation and jets providing air cover. Ryan monitored the plan carefully, calculating the risks. The ships launched missiles and drones, aiming at the massive ship and its smaller vessels. The energy shields around the massive ship absorbed every missile. Drones were destroyed instantly. The commander yelled orders to retreat, but the attack had given Ryan valuable information. He had observed how the ship responded and recorded patterns that could be used in the future. Jess kept the research vessel moving, recording everything in real time. Every energy pulse, drone movement, and response of the massive ship was mapped. Crew members took notes and adjusted drone positions to avoid attacks while gathering data. Ryan studied the recordings and noted gaps in the drone's patrol paths. "There may be weaknesses," he said. "We cannot attack yet, but we must remember this information. We'll save lives later." The city prepared for another strike. Citizens huddled in safe zones and emergency services worked tirelessly. Roads were crowded with evacuation traffic, but order was maintained as much as possible. Ryan and Jess communicated with military teams, guiding them to safer locations and providing live updates from drone feeds. Every second mattered. The humans knew that the next move from the massive ship would test their courage and resilience. Suddenly, a smaller vessel detached from the massive ship and moved swiftly toward the coast. It moved with precision and purpose, scanning the city and coastline. Ryan realized that humans could not fight these vessels directly. Evacuation and observation were now their only tools. Jess directed drones to track the smaller ship, recording energy emissions and movement patterns. Every detail mattered. "The humans understood the scale of the threat," Ryan said quietly. "The first strike showed us how dangerous they are. We cannot fight conventionally. We must survive and learn from every move." Jess nodded, her eyes fixed on the approaching smaller vessel. The war had escalated. Humanity faced its first true battle with a powerful enemy. Every action in the coming hours would determine survival, and humans had to remain alert, strategic, and courageous to survive the attacks that were about to come. The human fleets regrouped after the devastating strikes. Captain Jess Taylor guided the research vessel closer to the coastal areas, observing the massive ship and its smaller drones. Every energy pulse and movement was recorded and sent to Dr. Ryan Cole in the laboratory. "They are testing our reactions," Ryan said. "We cannot fight directly, but we can learn from their behavior." Jess nodded, keeping her crew alert as the drones continued to scout the coast and the ocean. The naval commander ordered a coordinated counterattack. Multiple ships fired in formation while fighter jets provided air cover. Missiles streaked across the sky, but the massive ship absorbed the impact with its energy field. Smaller drones intercepted human drones and destroyed them instantly. Ryan and Jess observed carefully, recording every detail. "Every move gives us information," Ryan said. "We must survive, gather data, and plan for the next strike." The massive ship released additional smaller vessels. They moved with speed and precision, cutting off the naval fleet from the coast. The human ships attempted to maneuver, but every approach was met with energy pulses or aggressive drone attacks. The research vessel stayed back, keeping a safe distance while observing patterns. Jess guided her drones to map the movements of the smaller vessels, identifying gaps and possible weak points. Every recorded detail added to Ryan's growing database. On the ground, civilians fled from coastal cities. Buildings collapsed under energy blasts from the massive ship, and streets were filled with debris. Hospitals were overrun with injured people, and emergency teams worked tirelessly to evacuate citizens. Ryan coordinated with authorities, guiding them to safe zones and sending real-time data from drones. Jess monitored the research vessel, keeping it safe while ensuring data from the battlefield reached Ryan and the military teams. Despite repeated attacks, the humans refused to give up. They used intelligence and strategy instead of weapons. Ryan and Jess studied drone patterns, energy pulses, and the behavior of the smaller vessels. "There is a system to their attacks," Ryan said. "If we understand it, we may survive the next phase." Jess adjusted drones to observe energy flows, scanning the massive ship's defenses and weak points in drone formations. Every crew member knew that their observations could save thousands of lives. The smaller vessels approached inland areas, scanning cities and roads. They moved with calculated precision, testing human response. Ryan and Jess realized that these vessels were probing for weaknesses. Evacuations accelerated and panic spread. Social media carried live videos of destruction, adding to the fear. Ryan remained focused, analyzing patterns and predicting the next strikes. Jess directed drones to monitor movement, energy signatures, and weak points. Night fell over the battlefield. Fires burned in coastal areas, and naval fleets regrouped in safer waters. The massive ship hovered above the ocean, observing and testing human defenses. Drones patrolled the skies and waters, scanning every human movement. Ryan and Jess compiled all the data from the counterattack and ongoing drone activity. They mapped energy flows, drone patrol paths, and attack patterns, preparing for the next strike. The naval commander considered another attack, but hesitated. Missiles and drones had proven useless against the massive ship. Ryan advised caution. "We cannot fight directly. Observation and strategy are our only tools," he said. Jess kept the research vessel moving, capturing every movement and pulse. Crew members adjusted drones, ensuring continuous coverage of the battlefield. Each observation increased humanity's chances of survival. Suddenly, one of the smaller vessels broke formation and moved toward a populated inland area. Ryan watched closely, analyzing its path and energy signals. Jess directed drones to track it. "Cannot allow it to reach the city unchecked," she said. Emergency teams prepared to evacuate civilians, while Ryan and Jess calculated possible interventions without direct confrontation. Every detail mattered, from drone speed to energy pulse frequency. The first human counterattack had failed, but it had provided invaluable data. Patterns in drone movement and energy pulses were now recorded. Ryan said, "This is how we will survive. We will learn, adapt, and prepare for the next strike." Jess nodded, keeping a steady hand on the controls. The massive ship and its smaller vessels continued their patrol, testing human defenses and learning from every move. Humanity's survival depended on intelligence, strategy, and courage as the war escalated. The smaller vessel moved quickly toward a populated inland area, scanning streets and buildings. Civilians ran for safety, screaming and pushing through crowded roads. Emergency alerts blared, directing people to designated safe zones. Ryan Cole monitored the situation from the laboratory, analyzing every energy pulse and movement pattern. "We cannot fight them directly," he said. "Our only chance is to protect civilians and gather intelligence." Jess Taylor guided the research vessel carefully, deploying drones to track the smaller vessel. While keeping her crew out of harm's way, humans on the ground worked frantically to evacuate people from dangerous areas. Hospitals prepared for incoming injured and emergency teams directed traffic and coordinated safe zones. Social media carried live updates, showing destruction and panic spreading. Ryan and Jess communicated constantly with teams on the ground, providing live data from drones and advising on evacuation routes. Every second was crucial, and the humans knew that mistakes could cost lives. The massive ship remained in orbit, observing the battlefield. Smaller drones patrolled the waters and skies, scanning ships and cities. Ryan analyzed their patterns, noting movements and energy pulses. Jess directed drones to monitor weak points and gaps in formations. Every detail was recorded and sent to the laboratory for analysis. The humans realized that survival depended not on weapons, but on intelligence, observation, and strategy. A wave of panic hit the inland city as the smaller vessel fired an energy pulse at a bridge. Vehicles were destroyed instantly and debris blocked evacuation routes. Emergency teams redirected civilians to alternative paths. Ryan and Jess calculated the best safe zones, guiding teams through live data feeds. Every decision mattered. The humans understood that the vessel was testing their response, and every action could save or endanger lives. The research vessel kept a safe distance while drones observed and recorded every energy pulse, drone movement, and mechanical action. Ryan and Jess studied the data, mapping energy flows and analyzing patterns. "They are learning from us," Ryan said. "We must learn from them as well. Observation is our weapon." Jess nodded, directing drones to follow the smaller vessel, noting every weakness and movement pattern. Night fell over the city and fires burned in areas hit by energy pulses. Naval fleets regrouped and prepared for the next phase. Emergency teams continued evacuation efforts despite the chaos. Ryan compiled all data from the first attacks, mapping the smaller vessel's behavior, drone patrol paths, and energy flows. Every detail was crucial for understanding the enemy and planning future defenses. The smaller vessel moved with precision through the city, scanning buildings and streets. Civilians fled into shelters, basements, and reinforced buildings. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and emergency services struggled to manage the chaos. Ryan and Jess coordinated remotely, directing teams to safe zones and observing the vessel's movements. Drones recorded energy pulses, patrol patterns, and mechanical activity. Every observation was a step toward survival. Suddenly, the smaller vessel stopped near the outskirts of the city. It hovered silently, scanning the area with precision. Ryan noted a pattern in its energy pulses, suggesting a possible weakness in its movement. Jess guided drones closer to observe, ensuring the research vessel remained safe. Every pulse, movement, and mechanical detail was recorded for analysis. Ryan said, "We cannot attack yet. We must survive and learn." Every piece of information could save thousands of lives. The humans realized that conventional weapons were useless. Survival depended on intelligence, observation, and careful planning. Ryan and Jess instructed emergency teams to focus on evacuation and safe zones while recording every movement of the smaller vessel. The research vessel and drones continued to monitor, documenting energy pulses, drone formations, mechanical activity. Every second was vital. As night deepened, the smaller vessel moved again, testing human defenses and observing their actions. Ryan and Jess prepared reports, mapping patterns and weaknesses. Evacuations continued, and civilians were guided to safety. The humans understood that this was only the beginning of the war. Every move, every observation, and every decision would determine survival. Ryan said quietly, "The first strikes have shown us their power. We cannot fight directly, but we can survive and prepare. Intelligence and strategy will be our weapons." Jess nodded, her eyes fixed on the smaller vessel as it scanned the city. The war had escalated, and humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. Survival depended on courage, strategy, and vigilance as the massive ship and its smaller vessels continued their deadly patrols.